currently sitting outside of Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. That's Boston Stadium for you folks watching the World Cup this year. And this is about to be the site of 7 World Cup games. Yeah, that World Cup, by the way.
Por la tarde bala negra soledad, combatea en la cabeza.
Bar the Olympics, or perhaps including them, the World Cup is the biggest sporting event on the planet. It's grandiose, full of immense joy, heartbreak, miracles, shortcomings, every type of drama you could ever wish for. The United States, Mexico, and Canada are set to host the 2026 iteration this summer, and it will be the biggest one yet for myriad reasons. 3 countries, 48 nations participating, 104 games, I believe, and it's pretty record-breaking in a number of ways. Big. It's gonna be pretty large. And with the way things are going with FIFA, quite grandiose in itself anyway. I think there was news recently about some bigger tifos and pyrotechnics at the beginning of the games instead of the usual banner swapping and things like that. Grandiose. If you're an American soccer fan, we'll go between soccer and football interchangeably for this video. You're probably excited about this, I would imagine. I mean, you only get it once every 4 years in general, but to be hosting, it's pretty cool now, and it's in my backyard, and we're gonna be right near the action, right near the fans. I know 2 teams, France and Ghana, are gonna be right in the area, camped out, and I'm sure their fans are gonna come and run us aground here in New England, and I for one can't wait. But have people from all over the world coming right here, where you live, where you go to the grocery store, where you shop, where you sleep, where you milk your baby. No, not milk your baby. Give your baby milk. Or something like that. You probably do that if you have a baby, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a baby, so I wouldn't know. But, there are, of course, the knee-jerk negatives, the lines at the grocery store, the lack of milk for the babies. Sorry. But, we know traffic is going to be bad. Traffic's always bad, but it's going to be probably pretty bad. But, if you're also an American football fan, you're the Yank, you don't know anything about the sport, what would you know about an inverted fullback or, Fernandinho for that matter. But, watching the men's national team trying to pretend like they're a legitimate force in the world game. This year I don't have too horrid expectations for them, to be frank. But, I don't know if we're ready for the embarrassment, the impending national embarrassment that this World Cup is likely to be. Aside from all the other national embarrassments of recent years. I'm talking solely from the American perspective of this. I'm sure Mexico and Canada have their own concerns, and those are valid. Our 51st and 52nd states, of course. But I'm purely talking from an American perspective here. The 16 cities that are set to host, and I think it's set to be a nightmare and a quagmire of shame. Again, I can't talk for anyone else, but I imagine I'm going to have a tough time having as much fun as I should come next week, just as the news starts rolling in. I'm excited right now, but I'm sure in the next week or two that enjoyment will be dampened by any number of headlines. And let's get started on some of those. Let's start with the little stuff, if we can call it that. See this train station behind me? Yeah, we have trains. Shocking, I know. This is the only way to access Gillette Stadium by public transit. Thank you to the MBTA, our beautiful MBTA. Thank you. Everybody say thank you, MBTA. Actually, thank you to the train nerds for making it kind of normal to be recording with a tripod near a train station, because I'd be freaked out either way. I'm also gonna get out of here soon because I'm freaked out either way. Go back to the home office. Anyway, unless you live in the neighborhood, like right behind here, there are houses. Unless you live in the neighborhood behind here and can travel on foot, you're going to have to take the car to most of these venues in the U.S. And if you're coming to a game here, you're kind of in luck, actually. You get a whole train. You can walk here. You're allowed to walk here. It's legal. You can't do that in other places. So count your blessings, Boston Stadium. Count your blessings, folks. You got it made. How many other American stadiums have this much access? Honestly, before doing a lot of research, I thought many of the options would be a whole lot slimmer. It's actually not terrible. Some of these cities are taking it upon themselves to be like somewhat responsible for this event that's happening. And I read one article, and some genius was quoted as saying it's like hosting 78 Super Bowls because we have 78 games in the U.S. I don't know if it's that. Let me put on my pro-America cap for a second. I don't know if it's 78 Super Bowls, but what it is a pretty big event, as I mentioned. Some cities are trying their best, making shuttles available, like putting in extra routes for buses, things like that, extra public bus routes. And honestly, they're not terribly unaffordable compared to some things we'll get to as far as parking and things like that go. Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City has some shuttles available for affordable prices, and I hate Arrowhead and Kansas City and everything that goes on there. So, if I'm giving them credit, go ahead, Missouri. Take a bow, Missouri. But the actual troubling thing when looking at these is not that they exist. It's the infrastructure doesn't exist to handle them in the first place. Like there can't be enough. There's going to be bottlenecks. The solutions are not developed enough. There's just not. It's too slim of a solution. People aren't going to be able to get to the games on time, and getting out of the games is going to be an absolute safety hazard. Sometimes there are additional things, but only one or two additional routes and only one or two additional options. And if you actually have taken the MBTA lately, that red line, just the shuttles between 5 stops adds an extra 30 minutes, and that's one line on one subway and 5 stops, and they have shuttles running. And how many buses really can you throw at the issue to get 80,000 seat stadiums filled in so much time? Even with these options, the American stadiums are terribly inaccessible. Places like Gillette here and MetLife have marked up their public transit fares. To get to this station during the World Cup, that ticket is $80. $80. And MetLife Stadium, which you cannot walk to. That's one of the other. It's illegal to walk to MetLife Stadium. $105 last I checked, and that's down. That got marked down. Yeah, that's accessible. And so it's that ticket in at MetLife is usually $13. Yeah, so $105, $13, a little bit different than usual. And this is just a viable public transit. Something I imagine the foreigners are comfortable taking to their local stadiums pretty easily. Studied abroad in Copenhagen. You take a stop, parking's named. You get right off. You go see an FC Copenhagen game, and you enjoy your 2 hours, and you don't really even think about it on the way home. Go to your 7-Eleven, get your glizzy. Go to DOP, get your glizzy. Don't even worry about it. We like to get kind of down and nasty with the diesel here in America. If you haven't heard, we like to put rubber to tar, fume maxed, so to speak. We're fume maxers. We're just 350 million average people trying to do their best Lightning McQueen impressions every single day. Every single day. We love Lightning McQueen. We love fume maxing. We like tar. We like rubber. We like diesel. Okay? All right, there's a guy coming. I'm gonna leave. Okay, I lied. I'm actually kind of chill for a second. Our stadiums, on the one hand, have limited parking availability, and it's being shrunk for the event. And the price to get one of the spots anyways is exorbitant. The prices at the places in the area, along our highways and byways to park at those private places, equally so, and rising. One more thing about the cars. As of right now, not a single major American city has outlawed surge pricing for rideshare apps like Uber and Lyft, guaranteeing the demand for them will have costs at extremes. Now there's ground transportation largely covered. A shit show, and each of the 11 U.S. host cities have their own unique mires to trudge through. This isn't really news to us who have ever tried to go to like an NFL game. A much less popular event on average, especially depending on the city. And the costs aren't much kinder, so for those visiting, our poor guests, things get plenty worse. And now I'll transition to the home studio for that, because this is really hurting my hand to carry, and it also looks fucking weird. In the studio, back in the home office, tried to make it nice. But if you haven't heard, the United States have started this little thing with Iran. If you are also unaware, this is significant with respect to the trade and circulation of crude oil, in no small part due to Iran's geographic control over a waterway known as the Strait of Hormuz, which is significant with respect to the trade and circulation of crude oil. Does this sound familiar for you guys? Have you heard about this? Okay. This, with the American hostility in the region, this has, in short, made it harder for crude oil to make her way around the globe. Meaning fuel prices, therefore airfares, because they run on fuel, are to skyrocket. A little while ago, the BBC reported that flights have increased by 24% since the start of the war on average. As long as this goes on, those numbers are sure to rise. And as of the day I wrote this script, gas, unleaded, basic fuel near me, gas or petrol if you're from the other side of the pond, as we call it, it was $4.44 American per gallon that day, and is still over $4 as I record this. And Congress actually just passed a law allowing for the ethanol content of gasoline to be up to 15%, which means, it'll burn faster, but it'll be a little cheaper, so it's just less pure. Jet fuel, on the other hand, tends to cost a bit more than that. This does all depend on where you're coming from and which stadium you're headed to, but you can see how this thing is kind of starting to add up, these prices, and how it's the policy of the host to make things more difficult than necessary. This administration starting a war over fuel resources a few months before it prepares to host 47 nations for the biggest sporting event possibly ever on the planet. Probably not something Pete Hegseth really cared about when he was demoting generals, so he and the No New Wars president could start another senseless war and waste taxpayer dollars bombing school children instead of feeding our own school children, but they did it anyway. And now all those generals have the apparatus from Kurt Vonnegut's Sirens of Titan locked up, so shouldn't have any problems continuing. And that's now land, sky, and sea I've covered. You got the Strait of Hormuz, you got the trains and the cars, and the jet fuel. So I think we've covered our bases there. The first games are on June 11th, and the tournament runs for about a month. I believe the final is on July 14th at MetLife Stadium in the East Meadowlands, or just the Meadowlands in New Jersey. So nice. June and July in North America, people are visiting the continent for the first time, the land of the brave and the free for the first time. The place that gave us Michael Jackson and Marilyn Monroe and McDonald's, the land of opportunity. It's the end of spring, beginning of summer, and the sun is going to be up and out all day. So, why not stay a while? Why not take a couple days, enjoy the nice weather while it's here, right? Wrong. I mean, not wrong, but there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that. But since we've covered travel, Let's talk hospitality. Expensive, also expensive. Now, I came across this article by James Gow. I'm just gonna call him James. You know what? James does a remarkable job of laying out a lot of the data on the hospitality pricing and I believe some of the ticket pricing, but the comparative increase in hospitality prices as we get closer to the World Cup. But since this video is being made before the World Cup starts, all of my arguments have to be assisted by sources made before them too. That's kind of a cop-out. But regardless, the numbers given, and I'll show some graphs as I speak if that's okay with James, are pretty gnarly. I know some of them are fairly normal, but the ones that are clearly abnormal are kind of astounding. I do think it's funny to be making this video while a lot of the stats back that my local host city is heavily impacted. Like, of course, he's whining about it. Yeah, I'm whining about it. It's a bad look for my city and my community. And I'm going to keep whining. Anyhow, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. While all of these extra costs around the games and the coming and going add up, how about them tickets? Am I about to tell you they're bad? Yeah, I'm about to tell you they're bad. But before that, U.S. men's national team player Tim Weah is going to tell you that they're bad. And then U.S. men's national team coach Mauricio Pochettino will say Weah should essentially shut up and dribble. Go.
This is what Timothy Weah responded to when asked about World Cup ticket prices. It's too expensive. I'm just a bit disappointed by the ticket prices. Lots of real fans will miss matches.
First of all, I think players need to talk on the pitch, playing football, no outside of the. It's not his duty to evaluate the price of the ticket.
Yeah, the tickets are bad. So bad, in fact, that the U.S. men's national team game, first U.S. men's national team game, has yet to sell out as of when I wrote this. Keep that in mind for a moment. The cheapest ticket I saw for that game, when I checked, was $971. The average ticket price on resale for any game is currently hovering around $1,600. It's one ticket for any given game. The average is $1,600. And you can go look at the most expensive ones. Those numbers will make you think that paying for college in the United States is a solid investment. Because you could go 4 years for if you buy 4 tickets to the games. Okay, so I was not prepared when the pre-sale tickets were made available here in the U.S. And I guess that shows how much I really pay attention. I say I'm a fan. I guess I'm not that big a good fan. I don't know. However, I was prepared when they were being allocated in France when I had the access to a France resident. They're going to be based near here, as I mentioned before, for the tournament. And they're playing games at Gillette, and I was trying to look at the ticket drop, and I wish I had a record in the numbers I saw when I did look at that pre-sale. So maybe those tickets weren't the cheapest to begin with because they're good games, Norway, France, England, Ghana. But I think for the worst seat in the stadium, I believe it was $400 I saw. Which is pretty crazy. It's not good. It's not normal. It's not normal for any entertainment. The fact that we've normalized it, it's the same way we've allowed companies to sell us a $6 cup of coffee when that was never the case. Obviously, the quality has increased exponentially since then, but overall, it's the same pricing issues we're having across the board with anything. But $400 is exorbitant, and it's exploitative, and it's disgusting. In all this, who can even afford to go to these games? Like, who's actually going to be attending them? Certainly not like the average fan who would die for their team, cries for their team, has a lot of pride and passion for their team. Is it like American sports now, where like they've become just kind of corporate outings because the companies who buy season tickets are the only ones who have any access to the games in the first place? Like, is that the situation we're in right now? I mean, it's pretty disgusting. So, but like, think about a team like Curacao or Haiti, Cape Verde, Uzbekistan. Teams qualifying for like the first time in forever. Like teams like Bosnia, who haven't qualified for like the past 7 or 8 tournaments. These teams, again, don't know when they'll be back. There's once every 4 years for the best teams in the world, the most established teams, like Italy. And it's once maybe in a lifetime for teams like Curacao or Haiti or Uzbekistan even. Shout out to Abdulkadir Kusanov. might go. For so few of these fans who are like getting this chance to see their teams, like to go and see them in person, so few of them are going to get that opportunity. And especially the nations that do not maintain the amount of wealth that any of the European nations or the host nation or like any other, richer, wealthier nation above them they might be playing. It's pretty horrendous to do to these people. Like it takes away the whole idea of the event and the sport is that everyone comes together and everyone participates and everyone shows love and joy for their country, their players, the people representing them and putting on a show for them. Who have a lot of responsibility actually to put on a show for the teams. And that goes for the fans as well. Like a stadium atmosphere, you have to put on a show for the guys who are representing you. Like that's their thank you, and the players get nothing out of it. I'm having a hard time being surprised by the numbers or shocked at the percentage hikes because it's just like what we've come to expect prices to look like in this country at least. I can't necessarily speak for everywhere else, but it's abhorrent. It's abhorrent stuff, and this isn't even about the World Cup. Now remember, I told you to keep that clue with you. Let me put on my Steve from Blue's Clues hat for a moment. USA versus Paraguay, June 12th, Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. Not sold out. Not even close, really, actually, when I looked. Is it possible that these price hikes are for nothing? Is it then that, like, my complaints are for nothing? Maybe. But everyone knows the price, like, because everyone knows the prices are ridiculous. I don't have to tell you. I'm complaining about it because, I'm taking it upon myself to be a spokesperson for the people because everyone asked me to. Like, no one's paying the prices, though. It's one thing for the prices to be high. It's another thing for no one to pay them. So, like, is the hype for the event artificial? Is the event too big? Now, I'm not advocating then for us to go and, like, shrink the package again and exclude the smaller teams. Absolutely not. I'm advocating for people in charge of the event and in charge of the capital and in charge of the land and in charge of the stadiums and in charge of the cities to make it more accessible, so this event can be as big and as deserving of the grandiosity as it is meant to garner for the beautiful game. And it's just what happens when all this demand is expected, when all these resources are expended, small businesses spend extra money to shore up and prepare to, like, meet the needs of the expanded clientele, and then no one comes. Have you heard about the curse of the Olympics? Like, the host cities, they pile up resources upon resources. They build things. They create. Again, they pile money, and, like, business owners pile money, and small business owners pile money in for this event to have the tourism. And then when the event ends, economies aren't sustained because the investments are just, like, they're saddled with debt. Countries have been saddled with debt after hosting the Olympics. Are 16 host cities in America about to meet that same fate? I certainly hope not. But the waste has to be considered, and I'm terrified for that. I hated talking about economics for that long. It's, like, not my thing. It's not my favorite subject, and I will consider myself a party pooper for belaboring that point. Anyway, I'm a party pooper. Why is everyone being a party pooper about the tournament? You hear what FIFA's trying to do? They're trying to what? They're trying to cancel tailgating? Honey, that's cute. Listen here, little. So they did end up, I believe, reneging on this ban recently, at least with, like, FIFA saying they don't have a restriction on such activities, and even host cities reversing their bans on that their committees had in place for the tailgating. Boston, our committee went back on the ban. However, the parking situations I was talking about earlier, it's not just that access is hard and prices are bad. Usual 20,000 spots available for Patriots games. That's the team that plays in that stadium usually. They're going to be reduced to about a quarter of that amount, just about 5,000 available spots. So that's great. I just want to understand the point of this. You know, what should be a massive party across an entire continent. It should be the fucking World Cup. You know, people should come together, maybe get in a fight or two in the parking lot, getting absolutely blasted before even walking into the stadium, and slamming record amounts of glizzies before noon. That's what America is about. It's where people come together, get drunk, get in fights, slam glizzies. It should be festive, and it should be like done the only way the hosts know how. Like, that's us. Like, if people are visiting my community for the first time, I want them to be able to engage with all the best ways the locals have fun in the same way I would expect from them. If I were visiting their community, I would want them to show me, I don't know, maybe they'll like tie people by their feet and, you know, pour alcohol down their mouths with upside down. Like, maybe that's what you do in your town, and you eat like grilled cheese or whatever. But like here, you know, we go in parking lots and we like bring charcoal grills and we bring diesel cars and we fire up generators that stink up the whole parking lot, and we, you know, like slam ourselves into plastic tables. You know, it should be a duty and a privilege for us hosts or home fans attending the games to go and put on a great party for the guests. And the powers that be are trying to amputate the Great American Dance Floor, also known as P1, or the best place to watch a sunset. Show parking lot sunset pictures. Stop the Bills Mafia. Maybe I sound like someone like fresh out of college in need of hooliganism and hedonism, and that is true. But my grandmother used to say, if you're gonna dance, dance. I mean, we're the country of, you know, the Great Gatsby. A century ago was the Roaring 20s. We're headed back toward another Great Depression. Like, let's get down and dirty before Black Tuesday, baby. You know? Now, one bold and beautiful thing I have seen, and credit needs to be given where credit is due, is a proposal by the city of Providence to allow bars to stay open 24/7 while the tournament is going on. And I think this is great, because Massachusetts itself, if you didn't know, does not even have happy hour. So you can't even go after work and you know, get fucked up after work happens. But, you know, still open 24/7, like, yeah, that would be awesome. You know, I want to be in a Providence bar at 3 a.m. with, like, a group of Ghanaian fans who have, like, the great fortune to be in the great state of Rhode Island, cluing them in on how we get down and sharing our love for Antoine Semenyo. Record scratch, that proposal was amended. Extended hours, yes, but no more 24/7, so... Like, I'm a northern exceptionalist and an East Coast elitist, but the South is simply more civilized, if just for the prevalence of Waffle Houses. Like, is there any enjoyment in nighttime fun if you can't find, like, a little liminal space to be delirious in? That, to me, is, like, a necessity in life. Okay, and so here's a critique about the American late-night establishment, third spaces, and the racism of anti-loitering laws that you've been dying to hear now. How about a segue? You know, first, the death of the 24-hour diner in America. This, to me, is like a bellwether of the decline, or at least like the cracks in the perception of American exceptionalism. There is talk that the pandemic finally killed the 24-hour diner or the late-night restaurant. Nobody's going out, nobody's drinking. The focus on personal and public health made nightlife in general fall to like the wayside, at least for a time, but that has to come back. Like, you can show me any of the stats you want about how Gen Z doesn't drink or doesn't go out, but I also think this hints to the financial clusterfuck we've entered. Food costs have soared, and so is rent. The overhead and operating costs for these businesses makes it no longer feasible to keep such hours in the current state of the American economy, which is more concerned with indebting itself for AI data centers and whatever cyborg dildo Elon Musk is probably working on right now. The resulting price of going out with the overhead costs, combined with the lack of capital, the generation able-bodied and able-minded enough to be hitting the town, has just doesn't create for an environment that needs somewhere to go in the wee hours. There's not a culture for going out in the wee hours because there's no reason to be spending that money. And it doesn't really constitute a vibrant or optimistic nightlife scene. This goes into all the talk we've heard of recent about like third spaces and the lack of community. This also goes into the inaccessibility of American cities, but in essence, such like an individualistic culture has our economic culture molded the social scene into that it's like weird to go outside. There's no room for third spaces on America's planet. Rock, turn this disco ball into poop. You can't be fraternizing with your competitors in the wee hours of night. It reflects poorly upon your CEO. Why are the purple minions hanging out with the yellow minions? I would be a little more annoying to outright say, but let me add a few more cards to this little house of mine and see if it stands, okay? Keeping the wrong people from being outside, or as the law might list it as exercising persuasion, which I actually quite like as a phrase. I read one of the anti-loitering laws, and the freedom of exercising persuasion, that's awesome. That's an awesome way to say someone's standing outside. Sorry. It's an old strategy. You might know them as the no loitering signs. Have you ever seen those? Put that up there for a few seconds so I can look at the script more. Vagrancy laws are centuries old, dating back as far as 14th century England, where vagabond serfs and panhandlers were meant to be pressed back inside or into the loving arms of the crown's institutions, and they followed the colonists to the New World, where they took their modern form of targeting the other to keep spaces clean or safe, to remove human litter from tarnishing the pristine streets that good white folks built with their blood and sweat, and how hard it must have been to manage those poorer kinds. What my aggressive stance fails there for me is history shows explicitly that the vague nature of these vagrancy laws were extremely friendly to policing and could criminalize anyone and everyone. Even after anti-loitering laws were deemed unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1972, the laws just got more unashamedly specific and hostile toward homeless, black and brown, and other outgroups. They're the father of stop and frisk laws and other public intolerance laws. So, not like if anyone saw the streets of Paris, more specifically, after the PSG Champions League win, and specifically the media response to those activities, it's very clear to see what establishments think of a party and that the occasion well warranted. I mean, yeah, go outside. Your team fucking won it all. Go outside. I know I'm supposed to be against looting and public uprisings, but everyone knows it's in good fun when an Eagles fan eats horse shit off a Philadelphia sidewalk. So it's I can't possibly care. Fucking have fun. We'll pick it up in the morning. In any case, the idea is that in our laws and entrenched in our history in America, any fun to be had outside in the hot summer is to be shunned and likely met with more martial responses than necessary. Even if they were to happen, it's probably not going to happen in that kind of degree at the World Cup. But, it's not going to be allowed to happen even if it's, deserved. We aren't meant to meet. We aren't meant to share joy. We aren't meant to share each other's space. And for a long time, that activity has been suppressed on the daily. And I actually suggest you check out the Bloomberg article I cited moments ago for a nice digestible history, and it's well laid out on how pervasive and violent these laws have been over the years, and it gives a lot of great examples on that. So if you don't believe me, go read that article. It has a lot of sources and historical facts, and I found it quite interesting. This is also something that concerns open container laws, which sound quite foreign to much of the world. I'm pretty sure not many other countries have an open container law. They're kind of also probably uniquely rooted in American racism. You can't drink in public, is what that means. Only the Irish do that. And see how unintelligent they are? You get it? Poorly behaved, not made for the great republic in the New World. They just don't fit in our society, Irish people. They just don't belong. That point's not made about Irish people, obviously, So, why would the World Cup be any different, People should be dancing in the streets, but instead you have to wait in line to pay, a $30 cover to dance to Tiesto mixed by a chlamydia-ridden DJ and pretend we genuinely enjoyed our night. That's our party in America. There's no options for good old-fashioned fun here. Not everyone is going to take their shoes off when they walk in because you kiss your dog and beat your wife. Not everyone is going to take their shoes off when they walk in your house because you kiss your dog and beat your wife. Okay, this is what I meant was don't ask me for my decorum, I don't respect you goddamn tyrants, but God bless the land of the free. Right? It's hypocrisy. We are by law going to make for ungracious hosts is the long and short of it. Cities are actively making it worse. If you can't go outside, you can't go outside. You can't even have a 24-hour bar. We're party poopers. Okay, do you guys remember a couple months back when Morocco beat Senegal 3-1 to win AFCON? Me too. Do you remember when 14 FIFA officials were indicted for corruption in 2015 in a bribery and money laundering scandal? I don't really, honestly, but I researched it, and I do remember Brazil by Declan McKenna. As we know, FIFA is no stranger to corruption. It's FIFA. But like in 2022, when journalists were disappearing in Qatar for opposing like the slave labor used to build the stadiums, the other cheek was turned. You know, for love is blind, and FIFA loves corruption. So, you know, the question then, is do they change their ways under their new dictator Gianni Infantino? No. We have discussed the financial issue, which is more than in Infantino's vision. This is his first World Cup that's truly under his direction. After collaborating with Russia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia is going to be in 2034, and the United States very closely in recent years. The excess of the events and the alignments of these players with these players from an apolitical organization, it makes it apparent Infantino cares not for the beautiful game, but for the beautiful checks everyone could be cashing if they continue to make everything as inaccessible and capital focused as possible. They have hand-waved and abetted human rights violations at both previous World Cups and have shown little signs of playing opposition. They gave out the hosting bids, after all. You know, they were the ones who greenlit these locations. So they have no clue nor care for how the sport is played by the people who love it. You know, it's played in cages, on concrete, cobblestone, cracked parking lot, and unclipped grass. Like, that's love, something FIFA operates entirely without. Yet we still have to see what will happen during the tournament, or what the coming years will reveal about this World Cup came to be. You know, what we do know now, we can't predict everything that's going to happen. I'm saying a lot of stuff that's, you know, I think is going to go wrong in this tournament, or around this tournament, and I'm just waiting for the headlines to show up as things start. But what we do know is FIFA gave Donald J. Trump his one and only Peace Prize. FIFA did that. Apolitical footballing organization. Donald Trump. Peace Prize. Now, I don't mean to say the boogeyman's name, because I don't really care for him that much, in the sense that you can't point to every American issue and point it at one person, because that's irresponsible to do. And what I will say is that this administration is more of a reflection of the direction of policy in America. In decades past, it's not just in the past 10 years as this movement has come to rise. Like, again, the anti-loitering laws are decades old, have been used since the slave patrols were becoming our modern police. It's ingrained in us, and it's the reason we're going to be bad hosts in the first place. But this administration is the reason we will be certainly bad hosts, and will be horrifically behind the rest of modernity in doing so. Like, that's the question. What will happen during the tournament? How compliant or negligent will FIFA be with the White House on what they've threatened so far? Like, how far will the Trump administration then go to make this as miserable as possible for people, like as painful an event as possible? Like, so far, threatening Iran's players and fans, refusing to host them, so they have to stay in Mexico and fly to their games day of for every game, all of which are in the U.S. So, yeah, they have to fly to all of them day of. You know, allowing ICE presence in stadiums with likely impunity, and further traveling bans for multiple visiting nations, including some I've already mentioned. Okay, so let's start with the travel bans and work backwards. So 4 qualifying nations, Cote d'Ivoire, Haiti, Senegal, and of course Iran, are all included in the strict travel bans of the Trump administration, in the Visa Bond project. So, like, fans of 4 of the participating nations are going to be kept as far at bay as possible from these games as they can. Like, not allowing these fans to come is plainly un-American. Like, we're supposed to be kind of, you know, competition for all. If you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, like, you're given the opportunity to compete, and if you can compete, you belong, you get to stay, you get to be one of us. It's just infinitely un-American in the values to not allow these people to come and be with their team. You know, they are a part of the team. Like I said, the fans owe it to their representatives what their representatives are doing for them. And it's disgusting that a host nation would not allow that to happen. Letting fans go to the games is one thing. It's unfair. Not letting the fans get it's unfair. It's rude. But endangering the ones who do attend, that's sickening and despicable. It's sickening and despicable. And I'm about to give FIFA a little bit of credit for being humanitarian in a moment. Shockingly, not because they're being humanitarian, of course, but because they want money. But I'm gonna do it. Just wait a second. Last summer, when the United States hosted the Club World Cup, if you remember that, no one remembers how that turned out. No one remembers what club won. I guess no one really cares, do they? ICE was meant to be present at those games as like a dress rehearsal. People have called it as a tryout for this year's event. And here we go. FIFA got them to promise otherwise. and they were unable to show up to those games. Now, the same threat looms, and FIFA has gone along with it until recently, asking for concessions in in the past couple days, as all of those seats remain empty. Remember that? Blues Clues. And the tourism numbers remain stale, which is bad for FIFA and the United States alike. As I mentioned, these economies are threatened. These local economies are threatened by the fact that, preparations are made, and if no one shows up, we're fucked. It seems as though these longings from FIFA have gone unheeded as the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have recently outlined their planned activities.
Now, what a lot of people don't think about when they start talking about World Cup is what about the counterfeit products that come in or the human trafficking? When you have crowds this big, criminal activities follow. Well, ICE and HSI are going to be out there every day fighting against the counterfeit tickets, human trafficking, drug smuggling, counterfeit products. They're going to be working hand in hand with CBP along the way. Now, I know there's a lot of acronyms there. So on the bottom of the screen, we're going to tell you what each one of them meant.
Counterfeit goods and human trafficking, but what ICE has proven across the country since their diasporic deployment across the nation is that they are a force of grave stupidity and certain grievousness. They are not specific nor methodical in their pursuits of bad immigrants. They don't check records. They don't check anything. They use vague prejudice and an assumed immunity to kidnap, murder, and create ubiquitous misery in the communities they turn upside down and tear apart. I would gather that, given an exam, their ability to tell apart an Uzbek fan from a Colombian fan or a Seattle resident from some poor bloke from Spain who got their summer tan too early from some teenager from Stockholm would not be a test they could pass. Entrusting them to decipher with any accuracy illegal aliens from visiting spectators or criminals, which is, if you look at any of the campaign messaging from the administration, what they intend to do is going to lead to another World Cup of horrific human rights violations and is itself a threat to public safety. It is a threat to public safety to have ICE at these events. And they're going to be given yards upon yards of leash to dole out their terrorism on eager and excited football fans in 16 American cities for a month straight, and I can bet you they are salivating at the prospect of getting their hands on one of them bad hombres and to get to tell them, hey Chico, you're going to the gator enclosure. Capiche, mi amigo? And I'm sorry to the Southerners who aren't racist. You're kind of the poster children for it, though. Sorry. ICE are rabid, racist huntsmen looking to harpoon fish in a barrel. That's what they're doing at these stadiums. You can encircle them. You can go and terrorize whoever shows up that you like. This has no place at the World Cup, obviously, or anywhere on the planet for that matter. It's disgusting. It's ferociously violent, and at base, at its most meager, is unbecoming of the event and its hosts. Is it unbecoming of America? No, but it's unbecoming of America. Okay, and this is the last thing. We know Donald Trump is neither sportsman nor a good sport, and for all 6'5" of him, he probably couldn't figure out that people actually put hoops above nicely varnished hardwood flooring. You know, he's so sore a loser that one time, actually. He's so sore a loser that one time he had his fans storm the league offices when they lost the game. You know, matter of fact, his favorite song is YMCA, and I guarantee you he has no idea the sweaty men in there have just been playing sports type games with each other. He knows less about games and camaraderie than possibly anyone in a position of relevance, as I've seen. Just cue the Clemson McDonald's picture. It's just funny. It doesn't really go with this, but it's funny. And the fucker gets to host a World Cup and Olympics and be sitting president when the men's ice hockey team wins their first gold medal in 46 years. I don't mean to simply rant about the guy's good luck. Like, that's his whole thing. It's why every toilet he touches turns to gold. But he's certainly not deserving of overseeing the events that best represent humanity's oneness, passion, joy. The event for a few weeks, every 4 years, we can all pause for a moment and say, good game, neighbor. You know, shake hands. See you next time. Where no matter what, you wear the same colored jersey as everyone else on your team. Where you see 11 people go out and play the beautiful game and you admire them for 90 minutes until one team comes out on top and we wait to gear up and do it again. So this desecration cannot be taken lightly, nor allowed to come to pass without saying something about it. If any of these people open the Bible and see that line that says, love thy neighbor, perhaps they might then believe that that was God's will, and they'll change their ways, seeing as they're the holiest among us, for achieving such perfection and success in their days as they have. You know, for now, though, it appears they have not read, as far as Cain slaying Abel, and there's not a lesson they can learn until they flip the page. We have yet to see what will actually come of things once again, and I know this video is a bit all over the place at times, and I ramble, and I'm sorry, and I'm trying to get better at it. This is only like my second video, sorry. But it's important to understand that the same things plaguing this tournament have plagued us and are plaguing us now. The same forces that are willing to harm the friendliest things are willing to do so to the most ambivalent. I'm also hoping that since this script took much longer than necessary to write, and still falls short in many ways, that if there is a fact that needs correcting, please do let me know in the comments. I want to make it a place for conversation, especially if you disagree with me. You know, especially if you love this event. I want you to, you know, say something and chime in and tell me I'm wrong, because I want to get this right, and I'm gonna make I'll make a recap after the tournament to go over things I missed and to cover what happened, including England's loss to the Netherlands on penalties in the round of 16. The first game of the knockouts. I think that's the round of 16, but this year it might be different. But thank you for watching, and if you can, go enjoy the biggest World Cup ever. You know, make a new friend and a few more frenemies. Bye-bye.